Program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publisher. For more information, just visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Now, I welcome you, the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We now present a reading of articles and features from the USA Today for Tuesday, July the 21st of 2026. And your readers today are Jody
and Alan Blackburn.
And I'm going to start you right out on our front page. My first article says, Trump is stymied on state voter info. The courts hold firm against federal election control. As President Donald Trump has fought to exert more federal control over elections, courts have unanimously rejected his Justice Department's contention that it should have access to the state voter rolls. The department has lost all 16 federal court decisions issued so far over its demands for voter lists, with personal information like addresses, dates of birth, driver's license, social security numbers, which local officials contend would create a sweeping surveillance tool. Now, it's not just Democrats fighting the Republican administration in dozens of lawsuits nationwide. GOP officials in states like Idaho, Kentucky, Utah, and West Virginia, they also fought the request, and 7 of the 15 U.S. District Court judges who ruled against Trump were appointed by him. Now, at stake in the litigation is whether the federal government can police state voter lists and potentially create a national database as part of Trump's effort to prevent non-citizens from voting. But judges have ruled unanimously that states run elections, not the federal government. The voter rolls showdown started with the president's executive order. Trump signed an executive order in March of 25 that directed the DOJ to prioritize preventing non-citizens from voting. The president said he has unavoidable duty to secure elections by taking steps such as ensuring citizenship of voters. They then began demanding voter rolls from the states to check the names for citizenship and inaccuracies, such as people who had moved or died. They cited the 1960 Civil Rights Act in justifying the request for names and identifying information. Federal law requires states to make reasonable efforts to maintain accurate registration lists, and where states fall short, the department will act to enforce this obligation, they said. Trump appointed judges rule against the administration. 15 U.S. District Court judges, 9 appointed by Republicans, including 7 that were appointed by Trump, and the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals have rejected the department's demands as unlawful. The government's request is unprecedented and illegal, U.S. District Judge David Carter in L.A. said of one of the earliest decisions. It is not for the executive or even this court to authorize the use of civil rights legislation as a tool to forsake the privacy rights of millions of Americans. That power belongs solely to Congress. Some Republican election officials are taking a stand. Republican election officials in a handful of states are among those fighting the DOJ's demands. Kentucky Secretary of State Michael Adams argued the request for the state to surrender personally identifying info about millions of voters would turn a little-used provision of Civil Rights Act from 1960 into a sweeping surveillance tool. The administration contends it's fighting election fraud. Now, despite Trump's demands to check state voter rolls for fraud, studies have found few examples of non-citizens voting, presumably because the documentation required to vote is also what would make it easy to be charged as a criminal. States insist they're already policing their own voter rolls. States documented how much they already police their voter rolls and how small the problem of non-citizens is. In Utah, a year-long audit of voter registration released in May found 27 non-citizens who were removed from voter rolls out of more than 2 million voters. Louisiana Secretary of State Nancy Landry announced in September that checking state voter lists dating to the 1980s against DHS's saved databases revealed 390 non-citizens who registered to vote and 79 who had cast a ballot in at least one election. The state has 2.9 million voters. I want to be clear, non-citizens illegally registering or voting is not a systemic problem in Louisiana, said Landry, who is a Republican.
Arizona primary races are the key for GOP. Arizona's congressional primary races may determine whether Republicans can maintain their slight edge in the U.S. House come November and test the power of President Donald Trump's endorsement. 3 competitive contests will be in the spotlight on July 21st in this purple state, which narrowly chose former President Biden in 2020, but flipped to Trump in 2024. In District 1, Republican and former NFL player Jay Feely aims to capitalize on Trump's backing to replace David Schweikert, a retiring GOP congressman and Arizona gubernatorial candidate. Another Trump-endorsed choice, former Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lane, is hoping he can overcome allegations of sexting and sharing racist and homophobic texts to defeat Republican challenger Daniel Keenan in the conservative-leaning 5th Congressional District. In a Democratic face-off in the 4th Congressional District, pits progressive newcomer Kai Newkirk against a well-established centrist incumbent, Representative Greg Stanton. 6 of the state's 9 House seats are held by Republicans, and overall Republicans hold a slim majority in the House with 218 seats, including 1 independent who caucuses with them, while Democrats hold 212 seats and 4 seats are currently vacant. Arizona can't be overlooked because in the big picture, with Republicans having such a slim advantage in the House, every seat matters. In a key swing district, District Number 1, former NFL Pro Bowl kicker Feely is seeking to capitalize on his name recognition and Trump's endorsement to defeat State Representative Joe Chaplik and businessman John Trobo. The three candidates are vying to replace retiring Republican Congressman Schweikert. The 3 candidates don't vary much on policy as they support Trump's agenda on top issues like immigration, economic policy, and the war with Iran. But the race has become contentious over the use of artificial intelligence, dividing the district's loyal GOP base. Feely favors technology, arguing that the AI data centers can benefit local communities and emphasizing their importance to national security. Chaplik is more skeptical, saying he would oppose any data centers in the district that his constituents don't want. Trobo, the former cybersecurity CEO, has emphasized his experience will better position Arizona AI and other tech issues.
And Americans find ways to cope as everything is more expensive. Consumers see prices climbing for 5 years in a row. Esther Melkin is dipping into savings to pay rent. Mike DeVitis tapped his retirement account to cover repairs on his pickup. Kerrigan Rosado is baking bread to save a few bucks. American consumers are hard-pressed to remember a time when inflation wasn't on their minds. Consumer prices have spiked for 5 straight years. In that span, prices have risen more than 25%. In other words, a typical product that had cost $100 in 2021 is now likely to cost $125. There's little relief on the horizon. The annual inflation rate for June, 3.5%, was higher than that of any month in 2025. Now, the inflation crisis began under President Joe Biden in the waning months of COVID-19. It persisted through the second term of President Donald Trump, fed by his campaign of import tariffs and a lengthening war against Iran. USA Today asked 6 American consumers to tell us how they were coping, and here's what they said. They still financially support their daughter, a junior at Pittsburgh State University. Mr. DeVitis, who's a former postal worker, ended up needing to pull from his thrift savings retirement to repair his pickup truck when it needed $2,000 in repair. Over the past year, he said, the cost has gone up of nearly everything. Car repair prices are getting more expensive. Everything's getting expensive, so it makes it tough. So they have cut back on going out to eat. Instead of dining out once a month, they dine out once a month instead of dining out once a week. And they buy off-brand products at the store as well. Making ends meet today, it's harder than it was during the Great Recession, DeVitis said. I don't think we're doing as well overall as a country as we had been in the past. The economic situation is, I think, just going to get worse. And I don't have a lot of faith in things getting better. Nearly $1 million for a condo. That's not counting their condo fees. Gas costs nearly $6 a gallon at the station near Mary Merkin's home in Culver City, California. I'm so grateful that I have a remote job, she says. She works as a YouTube news editor, and her husband is a product manager at a tech company. He does commute, but not far. They love their neighborhood because we don't drive a lot. We can walk a lot of places. Their biggest affordability challenge is housing. They have 2 good incomes and would like to buy a house or a condo. But even condos in Culver City cost about $900,000, she says, not counting the monthly condo fee. All are on fixed incomes. Social Security doesn't cover housing. Esther Melkin, who's 65, survived 2 rounds of layoffs before she did lose her job as a regional sales rep for a global food company. She never planned to retire, but despite 25 years with the company and a long track record in corporate training, she can't find work. A local affordable housing and renters' rights advocate, Melkin had long-standing offers to work for nonprofits after she left the corporate world. So at first, she considered herself lucky. She had 10 months severance and health benefits until she was eligible for Medicare. But then reality sunk in. Her Social Security check doesn't even cover her rent and utilities for her 750 square foot house in Monterey, California. For the rest of that, she has to dip into her savings, her 401, and a tiny pension. Melkin can't help worry about possible cuts to Social Security. Already the spiraling cost of everyday necessities like groceries, prescriptions, and gas have forced her to get by on a lot less than she used to. Reality check. It feels like a blink and then my entire paycheck's gone. Kerrigan Rosado, who's 29, commutes an hour each way to her job as an administrative assistant. She spoke to USA Today in April. At that time, she was spending about $50 twice a week to fill her tank. Gas prices aren't much better now, and everything else just seems to cost more. We have some of the highest rates in the Midwest for electricity. They just keep raising our prices, our rates, our distribution fees every year, and they keep saying, well, it's to improve the grid. But our reliability has not even gotten better. To cope with rising prices, she says, I just buy more stuff in bulk, I cook at home more, I make my own bread rather than buying just to save some pennies. It all adds up. It feels like I just blink and my entire paycheck is gone, she said. Prices are insane. Groceries, gas, restaurants, everywhere Chicagonian Krista Engel looks, prices have risen. Prices are insane, she writes in an email. Breakfast for 2 at a restaurant, it used to be $25. Now it's $50. An extra large cup of tea is almost $5. Bananas, they never even go on sale. Even good deeds have a price nowadays. Engel, who's 60, recently moved outside Chicago city boundaries and discovered you even have to pay to get furniture donations picked up. A Mesa grandma worries about rising healthcare costs for her family. When it comes to rising healthcare bills, Mesa, Arizona resident Peg Kilroy, who's 74, she isn't concerned about herself. She does have a private Medicare insurance plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield that covers most of her expenses. But she worries how her family members will cope with paying health insurance and medical bills. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have health care, she said. There are people younger than I who are not that fortunate. She said her younger sister has an Affordable Care Act health insurance plan, and her costs more than doubled this year. When Congress failed to extend the enhanced subsidies that expired at the end of 25, average costs for ACA enrollees who wanted to keep their insurance plans, they soared 114%. A June 18th survey from West Health Gallup poll found fewer than half the adults said they believed that they could pay for health care, medical appointments, and their prescriptions. Kilroy said rising health insurance bills and med costs are too much for Americans who are dealing with rising inflation and higher grocery bills. My nieces, my nephews, and my grandkids, they're all struggling, Kilroy said.
You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 12:13. Lettuce sample was a false positive. Testing continues as a parasite causes a surge. Federal health officials are continuing to test food items for the Cyclospora after discovering a sample of iceberg lettuce was a false positive match for the parasite. That has caused thousands of people nationwide to fall sick. After a lettuce sample from Taylor Farms tested positive for Cyclospora on July 18th, the Food and Drug Administration said on July 19th that after being re-reviewed, the test was found to be a false positive. As of July 19th, there are no confirmed positive results for samples tested for Cyclospora, the FDA said. However, the agency said it is still working with Taylor Farms as it continues to investigate the source of the outbreak and collects and tests samples. Still, Taylor Farms issued an expansive voluntary recall of iceberg lettuce products on July 17th as a result of the outbreak and investigation, which initially connected the illnesses to lettuce from Taylor Farms to Mexico, sold in part through Taco Bell locations in 5 states. Cases of cyclosporiasis, The illness caused by the parasite have surged in more than 30 states in recent weeks. People who contract the illness usually have explosive diarrhea and severe gastrointestinal issues. And here's the latest on cyclosporiasis, including the case numbers and recalled products. Tater Farms recalls lettuce amid false positive. On July 17th, Tater Farms recalled iceberg lettuce sourced from central Mexico because it could be contaminated with cyclospora. The following day, the FDA said a collected sample of lettuce at Tater Farms, which was not part of the recalled batch, tested positive for the parasite, and has since walked back the finding, saying the result was a false positive. However, Tater Farms recalled both lettuce products served at Taco Bell restaurants, as well as certain bagged lettuce products sold at Walmart under the Market Side brand. Tater Farms said in a statement that all of its other products, including those available for purchase, are not involved in recall. Our thoughts remain with everyone who has fallen ill in this outbreak, they said. We are committed to working with public health authorities as the outgoing outbreak continues. See recalled Tater Farms lettuce sold at Walmart. The recalled Walmart products are the only retail items that have been pulled from shelves. The rest of the products were distributed for food service. The health and safety of our customers is a top priority, Walmart said in a statement on July 18th. The affected items included 12-ounce and 24-ounce market-side iceberg salad bags and 8-ounce and 16-ounce market-side shredded lettuce. According to the FDA, they were sold at Walmart stores in quite a number of states. The products, but not New York. The products can be identified by best if used by dates ranging from July 18th to August 3rd, and anyone with an affected product should discard or return them for a refund. Taco Bell pulls lettuce linked to the cyclosporiasis outbreak. Taco Bell, which according to the federal officials used iceberg lettuce connected to the outbreak, said on July 17th that it had pulled the product. Based on ongoing conversations with public health officials and out of an abundance of caution, Taco Bell worked swiftly to voluntarily remove the product from restaurants, and the affected ingredient has been removed from our supply chain nationwide. According to the FDA, Taco Bell restaurants in at least 5 states, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and West Virginia, received the affected lettuce, but it's possible that more states could be included. And how many cases are there? As of July 13th, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said it has confirmed more than 1,600 cases nationwide. It was also working to verify more than 5,000 additional infections. The latest total includes 141 people who were hospitalized from the illness, and so far 34 states have reported cases dating to May 1st. Symptoms and treatment. Cyclosporiasis is caused by microscopic parasite Cyclospora cayennensis, according to the CDC. The illness is not usually life-threatening and can be treated with antibiotics, but symptoms may last longer for those who are immunocompromised, according to the agency. Some of the symptoms include watery diarrhea, a loss of appetite, weight loss, cramping, bloating, increased gas, nausea, and fatigue.
New Prime Minister vows new resolution. The Labour Party leader hailed as a communicator. Same to-do list, similar politics, but an upgrade of sorts. Quicker on his feet, more fluent in public, and more attuned to a country impatient for visible progress on immigration and the cost of living. That's how many British officials and political analysts describe Andy Burnham, who took over from Keir Starmer as the United Kingdom's center-left Labour Party Prime Minister on July the 20th. Burnham, who's 56, officially became Britain's 7th Prime Minister in a decade after a meeting with King Charles III at Buckingham Palace. Burnham arrived in the job pledging political stability and a focus on domestic priorities. He also became the 7th Prime Minister to share 10 Downing Street with Larry the Cat, officially known as the Chief Mouser. Let us make this moment Britain starts to believe again, Burnham said, speaking outside number 10 Downing Street. He said his appointment was a moment for reflection and new resolution. Now, unlike in the U.S., British voters elect a party, not a specific leader, allowing for some latitude in who runs the country in between general elections. Starmer stepped aside less because his government had failed to make progress, Its gains on the economy and public service were modest, but real, then because he struggled to explain those gains in language that captured the mood of a doom-scrolling age. Now, Timothy Bale, a professor of politics at Queen Mary University, said Burnham already has shown himself better able than Starmer to connect with voters and then project hope and confidence. But Burnham faces the same central questions as his predecessor: how to get the economy growing faster, how to improve vital areas like health and defense when there's no money around, how to signal that the government's getting a grip on irregular immigration, how to deal with an erratic U.S. president in Donald Trump. Now, Starmer was a polished, lawyerly technocrat who prized process, order, and stability. He delivered dry speeches and projected in an earnest manner. The political commentary often branded him as Mr. Boring. Yet, Starmer built a working relationship with Trump and secured a lower U.S. tariff rate for Britain than the president imposed on many other countries. Even after Trump attacked Starmer on social media for refusing to join the war in Iran for his approach to immigration or energy, Starmer found a way to largely keep the president on his side. Now, Burnham, the former mayor of Greater Manchester, offers a clear contrast. An emotive communicator, he presents himself as a man of the people politician. He has promised to give people breathing space on the cost of living and make a dynamic start to his premiership by delivering changes to people's lives as soon as possible. He has proposed nationalizing water and energy companies, launching a sweeping program of low-cost government-funded home building, restoring the vitality of Britain's main streets, and improving education by devolving power from London to local authorities. But Burnham has not explained exactly how he will deliver this program while confronting the same tight fiscal constraints that limited Starmer. Andy Burnham, King of the North. Burnham, however, is no political novice. Britain's incoming 59th Prime Minister first served as a junior minister under Blair. Under Blair's successor, Gordon Brown, he became Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Culture Secretary, and Health Secretary. He ran twice for Labour Party leadership and then he lost both times. Those defeats, though, ultimately propelled him toward the Greater Manchester mayoralty, where he won praise for attracting investment and then transforming the region's public transportation system. Now, despite his King of the North image, Burnham is a pragmatist, said a senior British official who knows him well and worked closely with Starmer. The official, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, described Burnham as a seasoned political operator who knows how to adjust his style to work effectively with almost any world leader, especially Donald Trump. Burnham may already be demonstrating that pragmatism. In late June, Trump described him as an extremely liberal politician who probably won't open up the North Sea for further oil and gas drilling. Now, the BBC has since reported that Burnham plans to announce new North Sea drilling. That's a move, perhaps designed to placate Trump, that appears to break a Labour campaign pledge. Bale said Burnham, like Starmer and other world leaders, will try to calm and charm Trump, knowing that in the end, pretty much all they can do is try to limit the strategic and economic damage that he's wreaking until eventually he leaves the White House. But no one should expect a Love Actually moment, Bale added, a reference to the scene in the movie where Hugh Grant's fictional British Prime Minister publicly confronts an overbearing U.S. president.
Death of a U.S. service member prompts more strikes on Iran. The State Department issues caution to Americans. The 17th U.S. service member has been killed in the war with Iran, U.S. Central Command confirmed on X. The service member died in northern Iraq on July 18th during a controlled detonation of an unexploded ordnance from a downed Iranian one-way attack drone. That service member had not been publicly identified as of this reporting, but the Pentagon announced the names of two American servicemen killed in an Iranian attack on a U.S. airbase in Jordan on July 17th. They were First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan of Eva Beach, Hawaii, and Private Isabella Gonzalez of Carrollton, Texas. The United States launched a 9th consecutive night of strikes against Iran. We hit them very hard again tonight, and we did that in honor of probably three great patriots, President Donald Trump told reporters July 19th at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. Multiple Persian Gulf countries reported attacks. The Kuwait Army announced it was confronting missile and drone attacks from Iran and warned that the sounds of explosions were the result of aerial interceptions. The latest escalation began after the breakdown of an interim ceasefire agreement. Tensions over control of the Strait of Hormuz continue to intensify, and the renewed fighting is again threatening commercial shipping as Iranian forces target vessels and the United States enforces its blockade of Iran's ports. Greek shipping company Dynacom Tankers said 2 of its managed vessels were struck by projectiles of unknown origin, July 20th off the coast of Oman. All crew members were safe, the company said in statements. Greek maritime security company Maersk said the ships were transmitting via the U.S.-facilitated southern Hormuz corridor. Yemen's Iran-allied Houthis said they were imposing a naval blockade on Saudi Arabia, opening a new front against the United States and widening the threat to global energy supplies and trade. There was no immediate response from Saudi Arabia. Iran had been pressing the Houthis to close the Bab el-Mandeb gateway to the Red Sea if the United States continued to attack Iranian power infrastructure. Still, both the United States and Iran have signaled that diplomacy is not off the table. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said regional mediators had drafted proposals seeking to prevent further escalations. On July 19th, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States remained willing to negotiate. Heightened tensions in the Middle East and the potential for unforeseen escalation prompted the State Department to issue a new worldwide caution for all Americans abroad. The alert noted that U.S. diplomatic facilities beyond the Middle East have been targeted. Oil prices were slightly lower the morning of July 20th, after the U.S. and Iranian officials once again signaled they were open to negotiating. Brent crude oil, the international benchmark, was trading lower at about $87 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark, also raised some previous gains, trading at around $81 a barrel. Gas prices, which often lag oil prices, remain elevated. The national average price for a gallon of regular gas returned to $4, up from $3.87 a week earlier, and from $3.14 this time in 2025.
JD and Usha Vance welcomed their 4th child, the first child born to a sitting VP in 150 years. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance have announced the birth of their 4th child, a son, making him the first vice president in more than 150 years to welcome a child while he's still in office. We're excited to announce that our baby boy, Alec Neil Vance, was born this morning, he said in a statement. Usha and baby are happy and healthy, and the kids are overjoyed to meet their little brother. She gave birth July 19th at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. The couple thanked the doctors and the staff at the medical center and the White House Medical Unit. They already have three children. Their sons are Ewan, who's 9, Vivek, who's 6, and daughter Mirabelle, who's 4. They largely keep their children out of public view. The last vice president known to have a child while in office was Schuyler Colfax, whose son, Schuyler Colfax III, was born back in 1870. Usha Vance indicated in an interview last summer with conservative podcast host Meghan McCain that she wasn't sure about having more children after they had welcomed their daughter, but she didn't rule it out. Never say never, she said. She and her husband announced back in January then that they were expecting their 4th child. The vice president suggested in his memoir called Communion, Finding My Way Back to Faith, that his wife changed her mind about having more children after the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk last September. For years, I asked Usha to have another baby, and for years she told me she was done, especially now that public service had elevated us into the national spotlight, he said. But something changed for her, and not long after we buried my friend, she became pregnant with our 4th child, and it was a boy.
You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 12:29. It's on to the money section. PepsiCo struggles to reignite growth. Consumers are rethinking snack habits and their spending. Americans built one of the world's great snacking cultures. Now PepsiCo is discovering just how fast that can shift. With 1 in 5 households using GLP-1 weight loss drugs, surging living costs, and a broader shift toward healthier eating, it's getting harder for the company to reignite growth. The pressure showed up in its quarterly results last week. Sales in the Frito-Lay and Pepsi Soda makers' North American food business slipped 2%, while volume was flat in the second quarter ending June 13th, even after earlier price cuts of up to 15% on some of its biggest products, including Lay's, Doritos, Cheetos, and Tostitos. That marked a reversal from the modest recovery investors thought they were seeing at the start of the year, when volume growth improved to around 2% in the first quarter, with the North American food business returning to growth. Volumes at its food business have fallen 4 times in the last 6 quarters. The contrast with Coca-Cola is particularly sharp. PepsiCo's North American beverage volume fell 4% in the latest quarter, while Coca-Cola reported a 4% growth in the region 3 months earlier, underscoring the challenges facing PepsiCo's snack-heavy portfolio as consumers become more selective about what they eat and drink. PepsiCo's results are likely to bring more scrutiny from activist investor Elliott Investment Management, which disclosed a roughly $4 billion stake nearly 4 months ago, and has pushed the company to reinvigorate its soda business, boost its share price, and explore selling non-core food assets. Investors certainly want better volumes in the face of them lowering price, said Stephanie Link, a chief investment advisor at Hightower Advisors, which holds PepsiCo stock. Americans are increasingly gravitating toward food with perceived health benefits, such as higher protein, lower sugar, and added fiber. This comes as GLP-1 adoption has increased to 21% of U.S. households in May of 2026, from 9% in January, with users buying fewer sweet treats and cutting back on salty snacks, according to a PwC analysis of Numerator data. For PepsiCo, whose food brands includes Ruffles and Popcorners, generate about 58% of its annual revenue, the shift threatens one of the key engines that have driven growth for decades. Analysts say any turnaround hinges not just on affordability, but on how quickly PepsiCo capitalizes on the demand for functional products. The company's executive said last week that improvement in its North American business was likely to be more gradual than expected.
Experts say waiting for the perfect mortgage rate to buy is not possible. Everyone knows not to try to time the market when it comes to investing in the stock market, but that should also apply to home buying, the experts say. Rates holding just below 6.5% for a 30-year fixed mortgage may still seem high to many potential home buyers, but experts said that shouldn't decide whether to buy a house or not for you. That's down from a year ago and much below what our parents probably paid. The average rate since 1971 is just under 8%, according to Freddie Mac. Maybe the rates could edge a little lower this year, but if you find the perfect home that you can afford now, the experts say go for it. The key is not to wait for the perfect rate, said Jeff DeGurian, Chief Investment Officer and Head Economist at non-bank retail mortgage lender Loan Depot. For homebuyers, the message remains simple, he says. Focus less on waiting for the perfect rate and more on finding a home that does fit your budget and your long-term plans. Isn't the mortgage rate important, though, when buying a home? The mortgage rate is important in calculating what monthly payments will be and the total cost of the house over time. But experts point out that that's only one of many factors. Also, the publicized rate is the average. Potential buyers with good credit, they can get lower rates and better terms, the experts also have said. How can Americans improve their credit scores to get this best rate? The first step is to know your credit score. A quarter of Americans don't even know their FICO score, a survey has showed. Once you know your credit score, make a plan to improve it. Often, renters don't even realize that just paying rent on time, that does help your score, FICO has said. Once you have built up your credit score, shop around for the best rate. Multiple mortgage-related credit inquiries within a short window are treated as a single inquiry when calculating your score, the experts have said. So shopping around has little to no negative impact. In even a small difference in the interest rates, that can translate into tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. Aren't home prices still rising, though? Home prices are still rising, which can add to affordability issues, but they're appreciating at a slower pace, the experts have said. While home purchase prices have generally tended higher in recent years, the pace of appreciation, that appears to be moderating, Johnson has said. While affordability remains challenging, the market is showing signs of becoming more predictable, Johnson said. Buyers may have more opportunity today to evaluate their options and make thoughtful decisions than they did during periods of rapid price growth. Now, buyers should also remember that if rates do fall, they could always refinance. If you find a home that works for your budget today, it can still make sense to move forward with the purchase, especially knowing that mortgage rates may eventually move lower, creating an opportunity to refinance into a lower payment, he said. Think of it less like trying to time the market perfectly and more like making sure the house, the payment, and your long term plan just all fit together. While every market is different, housing remains one of the great long term assets that you can own.
Florida dominates U.S. housing sales. Experts disagree about what the data means for a housing market. Florida now accounts for 1 in 7 of all homes for sale in America, even though the Sunshine State has only 8% of the nation's housing stock, a new national report has found. The Florida for sale market is flashing warning signs, Jason Lewis said in a post about the findings of his company, Motivated Selling Index report. Lewis is the chief data officer and co-founder of Parcel Labs, a New York-based housing data analytics firm. While Florida accounts for 14% of all homes on the market nationally, Lewis's analysis lacks crucial context, said Brad O'Connor, chief economist for Florida Realtors Association. Florida's share is actually down from nearly 16% the 2 previous years. The problem is the conclusion being drawn. Stripped of historical context, they can be read as a Florida market in decline. But the year-over-year trend tells the opposite story. Inventory share and price cuts are both down from a year ago, which points to a market that's stabilizing, not deteriorating. A look at the Florida Realtors data dating back to 2013 shows the state's share of all active and pending inventory of homes for sale nationally has consistently been 10% or higher, even during the red-hot housing boom in 2021 and 22, when Florida experienced an unusually large share of newcomers. That surge fueled dramatic increases in both home sales and median sale prices. Since 2023, home sales have slowed, as has the rate of price increases. Florida perennially accounts for a large percentage of the nation's inventory of available homes because it has long been seen as a major retirement and vacation destination. Of Florida's approximately 10.8 million housing units, 1.1 to 1.3 million are actually second homes, said Johnson, who studies housing markets across the country. Given that context, the supply of homes on the market in Florida compared to demand seems to be relatively balanced, he said, of the state's current 14% of the nation's available housing inventory. The fact that Florida has an unusually large number of second homes also means it is quite likely some of the properties on the market are listed by owners who may be interested in selling but are not motivated to do so if they can't get the price they want. The key thing here is that this share of the nation's homes for sale is receding because inventory is largely leveled off in Florida. Despite all these social media posts trying to make it look like Florida inventory is still expanding like it was 2 years ago, the median price rises for a single family home. Lewis in his post says 45% of listings in Florida have taken a price cut, knowing the percentage was 6.6% points above national rate. He added that 1 in 10 homes are selling for less than the original owner paid. On the first claim, O'Connor said Florida Realtors data confirmed nearly half of all homes currently in the market in the state have had a reduction in asking price at some point. But that percentage is down from 53% at this time in 2025 and not much above what the rate is historically. In the normal market of 2014 to 2019, the percentage of homes that took a price cut was around 40%. It's common for sellers to aim higher than the true market value when they first list their home. An asking price, also referred to as list price, is not to confuse with property values or how much homes actually sell for. Sellers can set an asking price for whatever amount they hope to get, regardless of what comparable homes in the neighborhood are fetching. According to Florida Realtors data, the median price for what single-family homes in Florida actually sold for in May rose 2.4% year over year to $425,000. It was the third highest statewide median sale price ever recorded. just under the $430,000 record set in April of 2024. The median means half are sold for more and half for less. Johnson said only 2 of the 9 metro areas in Florida he regularly tracks are still seeing declining home prices, and they are Northport and Cape Coral. Both are on the southwest side of the state where they are still dealing with hurricane damage, he said. The other 7, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Lakeland, Deltona, which is Daytona Beach, and Palm Bay are actually flat or trending up in the last 6 months. The idea that Florida accounting for 14% of all homes in the market nationwide means the state is headed for a housing crash just isn't warranted. Florida is still going to be one of the more dynamic states to live in for generations to come. It's going to continue to grow, just not at the rate that it's been. As for the claim that 1 in 10 homes in Florida is selling for less than what the sellers paid, O'Connor said, I don't have a quick way of verifying this with our own data, but it seems believable in some parts of the state. If you bought at the peak of 21 or 22, you're selling now, you may well be in that position. Broker, the market is sluggish but not in trouble. In Hernando County Spring Hill community, which is part of the greater Tampa metro area, Erica Allen and her husband recently put their 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom house with a pool on the market that they bought in 2022 for $345,000. It was put under contract in a matter of weeks at close to their asking price of $389,000. Allen doesn't believe the national reports depicting a Florida housing market is in deep trouble. They lie, she said. I don't think we're going to have a crash, but I don't see prices rising as fast as they had. Liz Piedra, a broker owner of a real in Spring Hill, offered a similar assessment. I've been doing this for 24 years, she said. Yes, the market is sluggish, but I don't see Florida's housing market in trouble like we were back in 2006 and 2007. Back then, you had people who had no business getting a mortgage. That's not the case today. Are homes selling? Yes. Is it slower than it was a few years ago? Yes, but the homes are selling if they're priced right. Piedra said the problem, in her opinion, is unrealistic expectations on the part of both the many people who believe their house is worth far more than what comparable properties in the neighborhood are actually selling for, as well as some buyers who believe the hype that Florida's homes are selling at fire sale prices. Is Florida overpriced? In some cases, yes, but in some cases, the homes are actually underpriced. I just bought one in Spring Hill for $260,000. Once I was going to sell once I fixed it up for well over $400,000. Realtors questions accuracy of the report. Brendan Rendo is a realtor with Next Home Realty in Winter Springs, who hosts a weekly podcast about the Orlando real estate market. While he has voiced concerns about Florida's cooling housing market relative to the boom years, he takes exception to the claims that there are 1 in 10 homes selling for less than the owner paid for. Claims misquotes their own map. Their legend says asking price below the purchase price. Asking is not selling. Median sale prices are up statewide. Intrigued by the report and its claims, he researched the past post and said that uniformly painted a bleak picture of Florida's housing market, including a characterization of sellers as having a desperate fire sale mentality. I ran a fresh multiple listing service number Sunday for the 4-county Orlando market, Rendo said. There were 161 active short sale listings in the entire region, and only 11 short sales closed in all of June. If Florida's sellers were fire selling, it would show up here first, and it doesn't. Parcel Labs co-founder defends the report's finding. We do count townhomes, new construction, condo units in our total for sale supply, and we're seeing 1,587,000 for sale units nationwide, with 38% of these units for sale undergoing price cuts. In Florida, we're seeing 215,000 units for sale, with 44.9% of these current units for sale undergoing price cuts. However, I would recommend our motivated seller index as primary measurement of seller motivation versus price cuts alone. This index accounts not just price cuts, but price cut velocity as well as price cut depth. We have a detailed methodology regarding our motivated seller index metric, which covers both the depth and breadth of price cutting behavior. It's a measurement from 0 to 10, with 0 being the lowest and 10 being the most extreme case. Currently, the U.S. is sitting at 5.1, while Florida is at 5.8, with Tampa the leading major which was at 7, while Miami is sitting at 4.7. Tampa is currently ranked as second among major metro areas nationwide for this measurement. Our data is trusted and used frequently by the Wall Street Journal and other places. We're an objective third party. Our mission is to provide transparency on the U.S. housing market, not to advance any industry group, interest, or narrative other than what the data shows.
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on our Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Our time is 12:45. Kroger is turning wine shopping into an experience. Kroger is expanding its wine selection with plans to create 147 in-store wine shops across the country. And the first, it opened on July 9th in Newport, Kentucky. Now, debuting in Newport, just across the river from Kroger's Cincinnati headquarters, this new concept replaces the traditional wine aisle with upgraded refrigerator and display cases and a larger selection of premium and imported wines. There's also a tasting bar where customers can get recommendations or learn more about their wine selections from a trained wine steward. Kroger to offer more foreign and luxury wines. The retailer said the move comes after it noticed its customers at about 150 stores, they wanted a fancier selection. So in response, Kroger is adding more than 130 new wines. The new shops will appear in 14 local stores in Kroger's Cincinnati-Dayton region. Now that includes northern Kentucky. The retailer did not provide a timeline or identify which stores will get these wine shops, but it added that more could roll out if demand is strong. Many of the new wines are from coveted regions like Chablis and Sancerre in France, as well as Sicily in northern Italy. The grocer is also buying wines directly from Burgundy and Bordeaux in France because customers are interested. Kroger is making this investment in response to growing customer demand for affordable, premium, and luxury wines, Kroger said. Kroger is the nation's largest traditional supermarket chain. Kroger operates nearly 2,700 stores in 35 states in the District of Columbia, including 77 of those in Greater Cincinnati. The company employs 403,000 workers. The retailer operates stores under the Kroger banner name, as well as Fred Meyer, Ralph's, Harris Teeter, Pick and Save, Dillon's, King Scoopers, Mariano's, Fry's, QFC, and others.
And here's the Ask Johnny column by Johnny C. Taylor, a human resources professional. Question. I was recently promoted to a manager's role, but I have received basically no training or guidance. Expectations are high, yet success has never been clearly defined, and I feel unprepared. Is this common after promotion, and how should I address it without hurting my credibility? The answer: this happens more often than organizations would like to admit. High-performing individual contributors are promoted into management because they've demonstrated potential, but too often they're expected to lead people without clear expectations or meaningful preparation. Remember, you were promoted because someone believed you could succeed. Don't mistake a lack of training for a lack of capability. People often assume great leaders are born, not made. I don't buy that. Leadership is learned through experience, feedback, humility, and a commitment to continuous improvement. No one starts as a great leader, and no one ever finishes learning. That doesn't mean the transition is easy. Leading people requires a different set of skills than doing the work yourself, and it's natural to feel some uncertainty. Growth often comes from stretching beyond your comfort zone, but that doesn't mean you should have to figure everything out on your own. Employers also have a responsibility to prepare new managers for success. People managers shape engagement, performance, and retention more than almost anyone else in an organization. Investing in their development isn't optional. It's good leadership, and it's good business. If your company isn't providing the support you need, start with a conversation with your manager. Ask what success looks like in your role, how your performance will be measured, and what resources or development opportunities are available. Approach the conversation with curiosity and a genuine desire to grow. Credibility comes from seeking clarity, not pretending to have all the answers. Finally, give yourself some grace. Every experienced leader can point to a first management role where they learn through trial and error. What separates those who become exceptional leaders isn't that they begin fully prepared. It's that they remain curious, seek feedback, and keep improving. Based on your question, you're already demonstrating the mindset that strong leaders need, Good luck.
CVS Health settles with the FTC on its rebates. CVS Health Caremark has finalized a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, in which it agreed to curb use of aftermarket discounts known as rebates and count consumers as Trump's RX purchases towards their deductibles, an FTC spokesperson said on July 14th. Now, similar to Cigna's settlement with the FTC this year, the deal would curb practices critics say contribute to high drug costs. It also would require CVS Caremark Pharmacy Benefit Manager to include a patient's payments through the Trump RX drug website toward the deductibles some of its health plans require once regulations are in place to facilitate the Trump RX program. Now, the settlement is expected to bring billions of dollars in savings on drug prices, FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson said. The FTC under President Trump, it won't stand for anti-competitive behavior that drives up prices for American consumers, Ferguson said. President Donald Trump launched TrumpRx.gov. Now, that's a website offering hundreds of generic and branded drugs at a discount in February, with a particular focus on connecting consumers with low prices for highly popular weight loss drugs from Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. Health plan deductibles are the minimum spend members must reach before leveraging their coverage. TrumpRx.gov, it sends cash pay customers to drug maker websites for discounted drugs, but has operated outside of insurance, limiting its value for some American consumers. Now, CVS also must provide an option to clients that allows them to opt out of rebate payment models, a spokesperson said. These rebates are paid by drug makers to the pharmacy benefit manager or may not be passed on to the plan sponsor or consumer after a certain drug is dispensed. Small pharmacies also would be given the option to be reimbursed for the actual cost of the drugs they dispense, plus a fee. Now, that's in a bid to address complaints that pharmacy benefit managers do not fully reimburse independent local pharmacies. Today's agreement, it advances and reinforces the changes we have already put in place and ensures affordability for family and patients across the country, Ed Devaney, president of Caremark, said. The decision to eliminate rebates will vary based on how the client and how individual employers choose to structure their own pharmacy benefit, a spokesperson for CVS said. But the company aims to encourage its clients to pass through discounts to individual members, CVS said in its release on July the 14th. The FTC's original lawsuit, now that was launched in 2024, said Caremark, Cigna's Express Scripts, and United Health's Optum RX, it forced patients to pay higher prices for insulin. CVS reached a proposed settlement with the regulator in March, and the FTC said the deal was similar to one with Express Scripts. Regulators have said the rebate model incentivizes companies to raise list prices, and then ultimately it steers customers to pricier drugs. Pharmacy benefit managers negotiate the price of drugs with the manufacturers on behalf of plan sponsors, such as the employers. Alan?
Experts urge action on AI's economic impact. More than 200 researchers and economists, including 15 Nobel laureates, and researchers at OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google have called for governments and technology leaders to urgently create policies and institutions to address the economic impact of AI, that's artificial intelligence. They issued the jointly signed statement on July 13th, warning that AI could drive a larger economic transformation than the Industrial Revolution, but one that is vastly shorter in time frame. The statement called for deeper research on AI's economic impacts and to start building policies and institutions required to ensure the technology benefits society and to navigate risks such as large-scale job displacement. Steam, electricity, and computers each gave societies decades to adapt. AI may give us only a few years, said Anton Koronek, a professor at the University of Virginia. We cannot improvise our strategy and institutions in the middle of the transformation. Waiting for certainty means arriving too late. Koronek, who joined Anthropic's economic research team in March, organized the initiative with fellow economist Eric Brynjolfsson and A.J. Agarwal and Tom Cunningham. The signatories include OpenAI finance chief Sarah Friar, Google DeepMind chief scientist Jeff Dean, Anthropic co-founder Jack Clark, and people on the economics research team at the Claude Claude chatbot maker. Nobel laureates Michael Spence, Darren Acemoglu, and Simon Johnson, among others, also signed the statement. And
we have one more short little article right under that. It says Target recalls 211,000 pairs of the Kids' Cat and Jack brand sandals. Target is now recalling roughly 211,000 pairs of children's sandals after decorative pearls on these shoes were found to pose a choking hazard that could result in serious injury or perhaps death. They recall, now that was announced on July 16th by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. It involves Cat and Jack sandals, that's the name of the brand, Cat and Jack, sold at Target stores nationwide and online this year. According to the recall notice, the sandals is decorative plastic pearls. They can detach from the shoe and then they could create a choking hazard for young children. Target has received 23 reports of pearls falling off the sandals, but no injuries have been reported. So here's what to know about this recall, including how to identify these affected shoes and what a consumer should do. Which Target sandals are being recalled? The recall, it involves Cat and Jack branded children's sandals. Now they're sold in tan with 2 raffia straps featuring gold buckles and then these decorative plastic pearls they're talking about. The Cat and Jack brand name is printed right on the sole of the sandals. The recalled shoes, they were sold in children's sizes from 5T through 12T. The recalled sandals were sold from January through May of 2026, and they cost about $20. So what should the consumers do? Consumers, they should stop using these recalled sandals immediately, take them away from the children, and then contact Target for your full refund. Consumers can return the sandals to any Target store or use a prepaid shipping label to just mail them back for a refund. And you've been listening to a reading of articles from our USA Today for Tuesday, July the 21st of 2026 on our Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return to you for more readings just after this short break. Your readers again today are Jody
and Alan Blackburn.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of USA Today. Your readers are
Jody
and Alan Blackburn, and we're on to the sports section. Logano dominates for the first win in 2026. The sold-out crowd at NASCAR's oldest active racetrack saw a three-time Cup Series champion get his groove back. The Cup Series points playing race returned to North Wilkesboro Speedway in the hills of North Carolina for the first time since 1996. When Joey Logano reappeared in Victory Lane, ending a 45-race winless streak for the driver of the number 22 Team Penske Ford. If you like old-school NASCAR racing, this is it, Logano said. When you have a car that fast, then you kind of just make sure you don't want to screw it up, right? And it was Logano's first win since May 4th, 2025 at Texas Motor Speedway. Logano led for 321 laps, a personal record for him, and the most of any driver in the Window World 450 on July 19th. After starting 10th, Logano made his way to the front of the pack during the beginning of Stage 2, overtaking Shane Van Gisbergen for the lead. The 36-year-old from Connecticut would remain up front for most of the night on the 0.625-mile short track, winning Stage 2 and then taking the checkered flag while weaving through lapped traffic. I saw that 22 drive off and I was like, I hope I don't see him in my mirror, Van Gisbergen said of Logano. He was fast. He took off and he was really measured, looked after his tires, and yeah, he was really, really good. Logano held off a trio of Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas and Denny Hamlin, Chase Van Gisbergen in a Chevrolet, Chase Briscoe and Ty Gibbs. Racecourse ace Van Gisbergen in a Chevrolet finished fifth, while an additional Toyota driver, Bubba Wallace, was sixth. Wallace was the final car to finish on the lead lap in a hot and hard race. It was grueling, the heat factor. I mean, it was just humid inside the car. When you just focus on things that you can control, the heart rate stays somewhere at a decent level, and you're able to manage your race better, Wallace said. We still need a tick up in performance. We've got 3 JGR cars in front of us, and no one in our camp is happy about that. The victory was the 38th of Logano's career in the top-level Cup Series, and his 70th across NASCAR's top 3 national touring circuits. He's now in sole possession of 23rd in all-time Cup Series wins, trailing Hall of Famers Matt Kenseth and Tim Flock by 1 win. It was Logano's second win at North Wilkesboro. He won the All-Star race in Historic Speedway in 2024 and added his signature to the weathered Winston Cigarettes Victory Lane sign in the media center. It was just wildly impressive, Hamlin said of Logano's performance. I thought it was really impressive drive from them, and he maneuvered through traffic really well, and he did everything we know Joey to do. For Logano, the win came at a crucial time as he entered North Wilkesboro 17th in point standings, one below the cut line for the postseason chase. With the victory, he jumped ahead 2 spots, leapfrogging Eric Jones and teammate Austin Cindric.
The Open Championship. Fox brings drama with late birdies for the win. The night of July 18th, Ryan Fox enjoyed a celebratory meal with his caddy, his coach, and his manager after shooting 62, equaling the lowest score in the men's major championship history. At one point, Fox shifted into a reflective mood and told his team that if he'd been given his career since turning pro at age 18, he'd have taken it and run. That's when Team Fox delivered an important message. Let's dream about winning the 154th Open Championship. This could really happen. The next day, this 39-year-old New Zealand native surpassed his wildest expectations, holding an 11-foot birdie putt on the final hole to shoot 2 under 68 and win the Open by 1 shot over Cameron Young. Fox made 4 birdies on his final 6 holes to finish with a 72-hole total of 10 under 270 and claim the Claret Jug and title of Champion Golfer of the Year. What would he do for his career now? I probably would have killed people for it, he said. Fox comes with an impressive athletic stock. His grandfather played cricket for New Zealand in the 30s and 40s and 50s. His dad, Grant, played rugby for the All Blacks and was a key player when they won the '87 World Cup. Now Fox, he plays quickly, but his journey to Champion Golfer of the Year, it seemingly took forever. He made the DP World Tour at age 30, notching 4 wins, including the BMW PGA Championship and its preeminent title, and then finally made the PGA Tour at age 37. He's always been good enough, says his caddy. He just had to believe. Fox called Fox called winning on the PGA Tour, which he had done first in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and then a month later at the RBC Canadian Open, a different beast. It was validation that his hard work was now paying off. His first round on July 16th at Birkdale, he couldn't find his rhythm, and he had to overcome an untidy 2/72 start, tied for the 85th, which marks the lowest position on the leaderboard after the first round for an eventual winner at the Open. He bounced back with a 68 on Friday, but only made the cut with a stroke to spare. Then he went out early in benign conditions and shot the third score of 62 of the week, tying the course record and vaulting into that final group just 2 strokes behind Sam Burns, who he had beaten a year earlier in a playoff to win in Canada. Fox got a bad break at the par 3 15th hole that could have doomed him. Wayne Radar Riley for Sky Sports and Thomas Levitt for Francis Canal Plus were the roving reporters following his group. Fox noticed them look at the bunker and walk past and figured he had a shot to rescue par. But a look of concern went across his face, and they doubled back and began to rehearse the shot themselves. I'm like, this is no good. When I got there, it was probably worse than I thought, or it was going to be. Fox had no choice but to hack out backward, and then he managed to get up and down for a hard-earned bogey. That kept me in it, he said. He birdied 16 to tie Young once more, but then he missed a golden opportunity from 10 feet to birdie 17. The 18th had relinquished only 27 birdies all week. Fox had worked for 2 decades for this chance to win a major, and he pushed all his chips into the center of the table at 18, telling his caddy he'd live with the consequences if he stuffed it up. He thrashed a 331-yard drive into the fairway and wasted little time choosing to cut a 9-iron from 175 yards, the wind off the left. I hit it exactly how I wanted to, he said, then begged it, please be good to me, please be good to me, and indeed it was. His 62-68 weekend score was a stroke off the lowest closing 36-hole score of any major and tied the mark at the Open, and he had the largest comeback by position after 36 holes to win a men's major all time. He also became just the 4th first-time major champion at age 39 or older in the last 30 years. He said he couldn't wait to drink red wine from the claret jug, filling it in record time, and to bring it to his family in Florida. I spoke to my kids last night, and they said, bring back the trophy. I think this is a pretty cool one to bring back for them, Fox said.
New World Conquistadores. Spain's soccer championship, World Cup championship, was expected, but the methods were not. They had the fewest goals conceded in World Cup history. Fewest amounts of goals given up for World Cup winners. This year's Spain gave up 1 goal this year. Spain in 2010 gave up 2, as did Italy in 2006 and France in 1998. 3 goals were given up by Brazil in 1994, England in 1956, Italy in 1934, and Uruguay in 1930. Spain is the champion of the world. Everyone saw them win the World Cup, with Ferran Torres scoring in extra time to beat Argentina 1-0. You'll have to forgive Spain's players themselves if they're having trouble with the fact that they've conquered the world. I still don't believe it, said Pedro Porro, Spain's right back. I think the first few days will go by and then I'm not going to believe it. Goalkeeper Unai Simon wore a medal around his neck, but said we might take a transatlantic flight and a celebratory parade to jolt him into reality. I'm still taking it all in a bit, said Simon. I don't have any kind of emotion when the referee blew the whistle. What we've earned, what we've achieved, I think hearing from my family what they've experienced, I'm sure when we get to Spain we'll realize the crazy thing we've just done. That crazy thing, winning the World Cup for the 2nd time in this country with a rich soccer history, allowing just 1 goal while doing it, and becoming the first team to finally put up a challenge too great for Argentina to overcome. It all happened in an unlikely way. Spain went into the tournament as one of the favorites, but La Roja, as they're called, won the tournament in a way few saw possible. The 19-year-old Barcelona prospect who might have had the most impact was not the flashy winger Lamine Yamal, the smiling teenager who led Spain to the Euro title 2 summers ago. Rather, it was center back Pau Cubarsí, who was more influential on matches and named the best young player of the tournament for his efforts. How did Spain surprise the experts in the World Cup win? Yamal wasn't bad, but the attacker was certainly expected to have more counting stats, even coming off a hamstring injury that ended his Barcelona season early, though he played enough to be named the best player in La Liga. But Kubarsi was very good. He is the final as the player who made the most defensive contribution in the decided game, with 8 and also 139 touches on the ball. He completed 121 of 126 passes he attempted. But his positioning, his ability to win back balls, and the way he quieted the Argentine threat without committing a foul in a physical game meant he was one of the most influential players. It was one of several things that worked for Spain and turned on its head the pre-tournament idea that a team would compete as Lamal and other creators. In goal, Simon was beaten just once. He embraced the role of sweeper keeper behind the adventurous back line eagerly, sometimes too eagerly, frightening Spain fans with his charges forward from the box to clear a ball. But Simon didn't have the starting place secured heading into the summer. David Raya took the number 1 shirt after a superb season with Arsenal. It's really important to keep the group together, to keep that feeling among everyone, that respect between those who have more or less minutes. Simon said, in that aspect, the Mister is top class. I think he knew how to manage all the emotions of all the players very well. Spain manager Luis de la Fuente directs pre-tournament build-up. That Mr., a.k.a. manager Luis de la Fuente, did more than just keep the group in harmony. The togetherness had been there for some time, with the coach leading them to titles at the youth levels, in the Euros, and now at the very top level. It would have been easy for things to unravel, let frustration seep in. After all, while Spain kept Argentina from getting any shots in regulation, there's always a risk of the Albiceleste, that's Messi pulling off a smash and grab, getting 1 goal from the greatest player of all time, and riding off into the sunset as champions. Instead, Spain continued to play its game, making the man advantage it earned count. Doubly so with La Roja almost always in control of the ball and keeping Lionel Messi and the Argentina attack from getting any touches. There was a phrase that we said, "Gentlemen, we have a date with history and we're going to hit them first," De La Fuente said during his post-match news conference. In extra time, it's just about reminding them that we played a great game. We had it controlled, but in a final against an opponent like Argentina, a slip-up at any moment can cost you a goal. After the game ended, there were players who have been here for the longest time who asked, "Mister, what's left for us to win?" Because we've won everything in every category. We decided what's left. The next game in September, because this team is impossible to tire out. The discovery of Porro, a Premier League player but went off the radar for many Spaniards because he jumped abroad at an early age, was crucial for De La Fuente. In the 26-year-old, he found a player who could combine well with Yamal, both getting forward and creating danger and finishing off crucial goals twice in the World Cup, but also one who wouldn't overexpose the rest of the back line. That back line, anchored by Aymeric Laporte, but with Kubarsi by his side, was also phenomenal. Marc Cucurella comfortably slid into the final third, often knowing that the defenders and the brilliant Rodri would be able to snuff out any attack and recycle the ball back on the rare occasion Spain was put a pass wrong. An unexpected goalkeeper, surprised defensive superiority, and players picking up the slack as Yamal searched for his best, blended all and you end up with what the world saw on Sunday, a Spain team that was all but unbeatable for the entire World Cup. Stats that would have indicated doom before the tournament, including a 0-0 draw with Cape Verde to open the competition, Yamal scoring just once in the competition, and a teenager becoming the most prominent defender, still led to the finish many expected from the start. Believe it or not, Spain is the champion of the world, and here are their results. They start off in the group stage, Cape Verde with a 0-0 tie. They beat Saudi Arabia 4-0, and Uruguay they beat 1-0. In the round of 32, they beat Austria 3-0. In the round of 16 versus Portugal, they won 1-0. In the quarterfinals, they beat Belgium 2-1, and the only goal scored against them. In the semifinals, they beat France 2-0, and in the final, they beat Argentina 1-0.
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on our Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our time is 1:14, and we're still in sports. This is the Corales Punta Cana. Italian wins in just the third PGA Tour start. The 2026 Corales Punta Cana Championship, the final opposite field event on the PGA Tour's calendar this year, was a great chance for all those not in the Open to notch a victory and earn a coveted 2-year exemption. The leaderboard down the stretch, July 19th in the Dominican Republic, featured young guns Gordon Sargent, Ben James, and Blades Brown. But it was the Italian Stefano Mazzoli stealing everyone's thunder. He was the lone golfer to get 20 under for the week after a final round 6 under 66 on one of the PGA Tour's longest golf courses. That was enough to edge Sargent and England's Todd Clements by a shot. Mazzoli is a DP World Tour rookie, sitting 424th in the most recent world ranking. He won the 2015 European Amateur Championship, but had yet to win as a professional. He missed the cut in a different PGA Tour opposite field event last week ago at the ISCO Championship. The only other start time came in the Open a decade ago. Mazzoli had 2 blips on his final round scorecard, bogeys at number 5 and 11, but he countered that with birdies at 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 12, and 14, and the biggest one of the day, it was on number 18. Sargent's best PGA Tour finish. Nearly 3 years ago, Gordon Sargent, he made history. A then 20-year-old junior at Vanderbilt, he became the first player to earn PGA Tour membership via PGA Tour University Accelerated. But he deferred his promotion, choosing to return to Vanderbilt for the season year. In 26, Sargent missed the first 4 cuts of the year and has made just 5 of the 13 cuts, including this week. In March, he tied for 8th at the Puerto Rico Open. This week, he posted his best PGA Tour Pro outing. He shot all 4 rounds in the 60s, including a final round 5 under day to finish 19 under. Playing in the second last group, I guess both days, is just kind of feeding off in the guys in your group. Kind of struggled a little bit yesterday afternoon on the back 9, but it was nice to kind of hang in there and give yourself a chance going into today, he said, July 19th. Playing nicely today. I don't obviously like to have a couple better, but that's how it works. Now, obviously, it's a crucial part in the season, so nice to get a little confidence, and hopefully carry that in the next couple of weeks. Corrales Punta Cana course. Punta Cana Resort and Club's Corrales Golf Course, which is in the Dominican Republic, was the host venue once again. It ranks number 9 on Golfweek's best list of top 50 courses in Mexico, Caribbean, Atlantic Islands, and Central America. This Tom Fazio designed course, it opened in 2010 and will play at par 72 and measure 7,670 yards, making it one of the longest courses on the PGA Tour. Now, this event was previously played in April, but then it was moved to July in 2026.
The SEC boss nears the breaking point on instability. This is a college football article written by Matt Hayes. Late in the regurgitation of the long, cold off-season, while wading through the nauseating airing of never-ending grievances, a clear and decisive option slipped through the fog of Greg Sankey's State of the SEC message to begin SEC Media Days. You say option, I say middle finger. When the commissioner of the SEC declares publicly on July 20th that the possibility of his conference breaking away from everyone else is real and isn't a leverage point, it's probably time to listen. No matter how he couches it, no matter how he declares a responsibility to be a steward of college sports, not just the SEC, and help guide it into the great unknown, no matter how he thanks members of Congress for trying to push the Save College Sports Act camel through the eye of a legislative needle, no matter how he deftly tiptoes through the obvious elephant in the room and desperately tries to show solidarity with other college sports leaders with meaningful reform, Sankey has had enough. One or more apropos, the SEC presidents and chancellors have had enough. Enough of Congress trying to shove its ability to earn through media rights and deals and potential expansion into an unescapable box through the guise of what's good for all of college sports. Enough of a 24-team college football playoff pushed by the rest of college football, a watering down of not only the postseason, but the sport itself. Enough of schools, some within the SEC, refusing to abide by rules, using litigation to avoid enforcement. Enough of schools, including nearly every team within the SEC, flouting the spirit of private NIL deals, using the secondary market to destroy any semblance of any financial competitive balance. Enough being told their conference championship game, the foundation of the league's wild success over the last 3 decades, has to go. By some coaches and athletic directors in their conference, no less. Enough of being forced into a structural, logistical, and financial model that they say more than anything doesn't work for them. So yeah, there are options. The same go-it-alone options Georgia President Jerry Moorhead and Mississippi State President Mark Keenum, two of the most powerful presidents in college sports, stated publicly in May during the league's spring meetings. Nothing has changed because, well, nothing has changed. Time is running out on the Save College Sports Act, a bill that neither the SEC nor the Big Ten support in its current state, because in part, both don't want to share media rights revenue and don't want to expansion limitations. But understand this. Congress doesn't need the SEC and Big Ten's approval to push the bill through. If the bill goes through as is, without the blessing of the two super conferences, the SEC and Big Ten are left with a difficult decision. Agree to let the legislation deal with any potential unwinding of its ability to earn or expand, or go it alone. The SEC and Big Ten think the same. The SEC's presidents have simply been more vocal. I do not believe that that is a leverage point, Sankey said. I think that's just honest communication. More than anything, it's a level of frustration. One wouldn't end with the passing of a congressional bill or expansion of the postseason or any other magic bullet theory that may or may not gain control of the annual free-moving free agent, free-for-all that is kneecap college sports. Like it or not, going it alone talk isn't going anywhere. And I know the pride with which I spoke of winning 13 national champions, and there is meaning and value, Sankey said July 20th, but that national organization must function in a healthy manner. Otherwise, that simmering will continue, all the way to a defining moment for college sports.
Michigan posts investigation findings. The University of Michigan released a summary of findings of an investigation into its athletic department triggered by the firing of former football coach Sharon Moore in December of 25. Now, the findings were published on the University Public Affairs website on June 20th after the school announced the pending departure of athletic director Ward Manuel. The investigation, conducted by Jenner & Block LLP, it cost the university more than $12 million. Manuel is set to step down at the end of the calendar year from his post, which he has held since January of 2016. With the investigation and culture review concluded, the university is moving forward with implementation of recommendations designed to strengthen integrity, accountability, compliance, and organizational effectiveness, Michigan wrote on its public affairs website. While documents related to the investigation and culture to review remain confidential in order to protect the privacy of witnesses who participated, safeguard the confidentiality of the investigative process, and preserve attorney-client privilege. The information below reflects the principal facts of the investigation and culture review, recommendations, and the actions the university is taking to implement these. As noted by the Detroit Free Press, part of USA Today, Jenner & Block was brought on shortly after the firing of Moore for cause for an alleged inappropriate relationship with his executive assistant, Paige Shiver, and expanded into a more wide-ranging look at the athletic department culture as a whole. Moore was fired on December 10th of 25 after the university found credible evidence that he had engaged in an inappropriate relationship with Shriver. He was arrested after his firing after allegedly going inside the house of Shriver and then blaming her for him losing his job. He faced 3 charges, a felony count of home invasion and 2 misdemeanors, but after a no-contest plea was ultimately sentenced to 18 months of probation in a Michigan court on April the 14th. Now, the summary of the report mentioned that the culture review of the Wolverines football program's predominance and organizational structure created unique oversight challenges during the investigation, which included 350 interviews of nearly 300 witnesses and a review of more than 20,000 documents. Now, Manuel's tenure has included multiple scandals within the athletic department, most notably football and men's hockey. The football program was investigated twice by the NCAA under Manuel's leadership during the Jim Harbaugh era in Ann Arbor, which included a laundry list of show-cause orders on staffers' punishments handed to the Wolverines and a plethora of violations, including Level 1 violations, the most serious ones that are handed out by the NCAA. The culture review found that Ward Manuel demonstrated important leadership strengths, particularly his commitment to student athletes. Now, at the same time, it identified failures to quickly and effectively act on allegations of wrongdoing by the athletic department employees, Michigan wrote on the website regarding the findings on Manuel. Michigan is not expected to release this full report, citing the need to protect participants' privacy, promote witnesses' willingness to cooperate in future investigations, preserve investigative integrity, and maintain attorney-client privilege.
Here's an article about Major League Power rankings. The Red Sox worst to first quest continues. It has spanned 17 days and two halves of this Major League Baseball season, hatched during the World Cup's round of 32 and lasting all the way through the awkward handshakes and trophy lifts in the Meadowlands. So where do the Boston Red Sox go from here, now that their 13-game baseball winning streak, second longest in their storied history, is knocking on August's door? For now, they're zooming up USA Today's Sports Major League Baseball power rankings. The Red Sox began this streak July 30th at 37 and 48th and in last place in the American League East. They're still going heading into play on July 20th, and now after sweeping the first place Tampa Bay Rays, the Red Sox are 50 and 48 in a wild card position in the American League and firmly not going to break up the squad at the August 3rd trade deadline. They've won 18 of the last 20, and predictably enough, the backbone of this run has been pitching. They pivoted to run prevention after getting outbid on Alex Bregman, and despite the absence of left-handers Garrett Crotchet and Connolly Early, Red Sox starters have recorded a quality start in 19 of the last 27 games, going 14 and 2, with the major's best 2.27 earned run average in that span. Now, after powering up four more spots to number 15, 6 more games against the division rivals Baltimore, Toronto, a look at the updated rankings. Number 1, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Is it time to have a conversation about the best allocation of Shohei Ohtani's resources? Number 2, the Milwaukee Brewers. Garrett Mitchell's OPS is up to a career high 827. Number 3, the Atlanta Braves roar out of the gate with 29 runs in 3 games against the Rangers. Number 4, the Tampa Bay Rays, a season-high 5 losses in a row after a 4-game sweep at Fenway. Number 5, Chicago Cubs. Offense is back, and better yet, so is Shota Imanaga, it seems. The New York Yankees, number 6. No more imaging, but no baseball activities for Aaron Judge. Not great. Number 7, the Philadelphia Phillies. Playing right field, number 4, and number 5 starter have been top deadline priorities. Number 8, Chicago White Sox. These dudes have just lost 1 series since June 21st. Number 9, the Miami Marlins. A rough start to the second half, compounded by Otto Lopez tweaking his finger. Number 10, the Pittsburgh Pirates, in a tie for the National League wildcard spot. Now fix that bullpen. Number 11, the St. Louis Cardinals, very quietly losing 8 of their last 12. Number 12, the Cleveland Guardians. Bullpen has multiple reinforcements nearing return. Number 13, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Stunning comeback from 7 runs down, tempered by a potential loss of Corbin Carroll. 14, the Texas Rangers. An ugly second-half opener at Atlanta, but at least the Rangers broadcast limbo kept folks from watching it. Number 15, the Boston Red Sox. They're their hottest team in baseball, still not selling out Fenway consistently. 16 is Seattle Mariners. Cole Young bails them out 2 days in a row to salvage the season from the lowly Giants. Number 17, the Washington Nationals. Foster Griffin on their first 11-game winners in 2019. Number 18, the San Diego Padres. Starters Nick Pivetta and Joe Musgrove are working their way back. Number 19, the Baltimore Orioles. They suddenly won 6 in a row. Is it finally happening? Number 20, the Minnesota Twins. 4 games at Cleveland may prove if this thing is worth getting after. Number 21, the Detroit Tigers. We've been playing Game 7 for like 2 months, says A.J. Hinch. Just 2.5 more to go. Number 22, the Houston Astros. Look a lot more like they'll fall on the sell side of things. Number 23, the Toronto Blue Jays. Joy of Joe Carter's statue unveiled, tempered by the unexpected death of Dwayne Ward. Number 24, the Cincinnati Reds. Tyler Stephenson's 2-homer, a nice trade block showcase. Number 25, the San Francisco Giants. Bryce Eldridge, 10 homers, 858 OPS in 200 at-bats. Number 26, the New York Mets. Nolan McLean is now 5th in the National League with 135 strikeouts. Number 27, the Athletics gave up 23 runs in a loss to the Nationals, the 11th time they yielded double-digit runs in Yellow Country. Number 28, the Colorado Rockies. Colin Carroll's OPS is now 900 in 125 plate appearances. 29, Los Angeles Angels. Grayson Rodriguez ERA is now 8.23 in 8 starts. And last, the Kansas City Royals at number 30. Utility man Tyler Tolbert. Tolbert has now pitched in 5 games, 4 more than projected closer Carlos Estevez.
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on our Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our time is now 1:30, and it's time to go to our lifestyle section. I have a music article for you. AC/DC still has the power to thrill its fans. On a stifling summer afternoon, Brian Johnson is pumping his fist and letting loose his unholy yowl. To his left, Angus Young, his shock of white hair matching his t-shirt, slashes out the iconic opening riff of Back in Black. They scamper around the massive stage in their jeans and Converse sneakers, exchanging grins and glances with the comfort of guys who have lived through Boons and Bottoms together for decades. It's sound check, and their only audience is a couple of security guards milling around. But both men, the rock legends who are centerpiece of one of music's most enduring bands, are playing to 50,000 empty seats with the same fervor as they will 2 nights later when AC/DC ignites the final U.S. leg of their Power Up tour. Will AC/DC power down after this Power Up tour is over, they ask. Since May of 24, AC/DC has blanketed the world with their Power Up tour, regularly selling out stadiums. The 15 shows they played in Australia and South America from December until April grossed $120.3 million from more than 900,000 tickets sold. The tour will wrap up on September the 29th in Philadelphia, and it will be hitting cities like Atlanta, Houston, and Toronto along the way, which leads to the question of whether that last show will be the last show. Sharing a couch in the green room buried in the Charlotte Stadium, Johnson, who is 78, and Young, who's 71, they sit for an in-person interview since before the 2020 pandemic, and the only interview that they planned for this tour. They talk of where they would perhaps like to play their last show, and it's met with jovial and polite vagueness. "Well, I hope it's not my funeral," says Young with a laugh. "Upstairs rather than downstairs," Johnson said in his gruff English accent. "On Earth?" Young tries again before he just adds, "Well, it's a tough call." Young shares the influence of his brother, Malcolm. Now, regardless of when and where the end comes, the focus for the next couple of months is now. Johnson still rip-roars through 20-plus song set lists stacked with innuendo-laced air guitar favorites, including You Shook Me All Night Long, TNT, and the always epic closer, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. Cannons wheeled to the edge of the stage to sync with the blasts of the pyro. The Young's famous accoutrements, that's his schoolboy uniform of shorts, tie, and knee socks, the devil horns during Highway to Hell, they produce their own fan club among all the crowds. My brother Malcolm used to say that the fans come to see that school too. That meant I had to put on the full regalia, no matter what the temperature is. When I put it on, then I know. I feel a kind of comfort, Young says, before chuckling again, which worries me a bit because I don't want to be just turning into that guy. AC/DC wants their legacy to be simple. They wanted a great rock band. After 2.5 years of touring behind 2020's Power Up album, which yielded that #1 rock hit Shot in the Dark, Johnson is still slightly surprised that fans continue to show up off-the-scale passion. As is common among shows from classic rock veterans, the audience, it just keeps expanding all through the generations. AC/DC doesn't need to do anything more to cement their standing as one of the most notable bands in history and the simple ethos that has powered their songs. Straightforward, memorable rock. That's how they view themselves. I would just say a great rock band, Young says when he asks to summarize his AC/DC's legacy. Johnson nods and he adds in, they were great at what they did, and they did it consistently. You never thought back at the date. When I finish here, I'm going to be 79. Young jumps in with some levity. Can you count that high? I can't even think of it, Johnson says. Saying it back then, I would have just laughed. The credit for all of it, both Young and Johnson stress, though, is the dedication of their fans, and there's nothing that compares to the energy created by 50,000 people singing well-worn anthems all in unison. I love to thank them all, one by one, Johnson says.
Judy and I are going to split this next article about Christopher Nolan. Nolan's Odyssey tops his epic resume. Certain conventions are expected for a Christopher Nolan movie. For one, the film is probably going to be pretty dang good. Also, extremely long runtimes are a must. Another, the central protagonist is always a complicated figure. And the fourth, prepare for the unconventional. Nolan plays by his own cinematic rules, and that's why we love the iconic director. From war movies and psychological thrillers to a trilogy featuring a guy dressed up like a bat, Nolan has a taste for the unexpected. That's often surprising and unusually satisfying. His latest effort, a follow-up to the mighty Oscar-conquering behemoth Oppenheimer, is his biggest swing yet. Nolan tackles an adaptation of Homer's epic, The Odyssey, with Matt Damon leading an A-list cast as the legendary Odysseus. The only thing more treacherous in his journey home might be tackling a ranking of Nolan's filmography. But challenge accepted. This by Brian Truitt. Here are all of his movies, from worst to really dang good to best. At number 13 is the following, from 1998. Nolan's tendencies toward non-linear storytelling, broody complex personalities, and throwing out the filmmaking rulebook all were apparent in his 70-minute Hitchcockian debut. Jeremy Theobald stars as a London writer who follows around strangers for inspiration. A personality quirk that gets him in trouble when he becomes tied to a serial burglar, played by Alex Haw, and a femme fatale played by Lucy Russell. You can watch it on Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. Number 12 is Tenet of 2020. The best way to describe Nolan's puzzling secret agent bonanza, James Bond by way of a Rubik's Cube. The globe-trotting film casts a sensational John David Washington as a super spy in an organization that uses time inversion for its missions. It's a lot to explain. Just sit back, don't think too much, and blissfully enjoy Washington and Robert Pattinson as his partner in an out-of-time hallway brawls and cars flipping forward and backward. You can watch it on Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. Number 11, The Dark Knight Rises from 2012. Yeah, no one really understood what Tom Hardy's masked Bane was saying in Nolan's third Bat film, which didn't quite reach the extremely high bar set by the first two. So there's a lot to dig in this Gotham City adventure. From Anne Hathaway slinking around as Catwoman to Christian Bale's Batman rising back up from a broken man to city savior in time for a rousing climax. You can watch it on HBO Max, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. Number 10 is Insomnia from 2002. Nolan leads a moody atmosphere to his chilly psychological thriller, which features Al Pacino as a homicide detective sent to Alaska to investigate the brutal murder of a teenage girl. He also can't sleep really well, so that doesn't help. And Neela is being taunted by his prime suspect, played by Robin Williams. Nolan adds his signature intensity to the cop drama, benefited by one of Williams' creepiest performances. You can watch it on Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. Number 9 is Dunkirk of 2017. The World War II movie was Nolan's first foray into real history, and like Saving Private Ryan, immersed viewers in the horrors of battle. Of course, he did it with his own signature way. Three tales of the heroic Dunkirk evacuation of 1940 unfold at different times over land, sea, and air. Fionn Whitehead stars as a British soldier trying to stay alive on a Nazi-occupied beach in one story, while another focuses on Tom Hardy as a pilot battling German planes with a rapidly depleting fuel tank. You can watch it on Apple TV, Amazon, or Fandango. Number 8 is Memento of the year 2000. The innovative neo-noir delight that put Nolan on the cinematic map. And here's the fun thing about having Guy Pearce as your lead amnesiac who can't create a new long-term memories. You can craft one heck of a whodunit narrative told backwards, featuring two timelines where the dude has to solve his wife's murder using photos, helpful tattoos, and written notes to himself. You can watch it on Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, Tubi, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango.
And now we're at number 7, Oppenheimer. That was from 2023. Nolan's ambitious and exquisitely crafted biopic cast Cillian Murphy as theoretical physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer. The movie follows his early years being tapped to work on the Manhattan Project and the ticking clock lead up to the atomic bomb, and also his consequential fallout with rival Louis Strauss. Nolan turns a harrowing era of American history into equal parts horror show, paranoia thriller, and political potboiler. You can see that on Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. At number 6, we have Batman Begins. That was from 2005. On Nolan's watch, the all-too-familiar origin story of how billionaire Bruce Wayne becomes Batman receives a fresh, expertly crafted twist. Bruce is trained as an assassin overseas after his parents' death, and he embraces the whole cape and cowl thing, reunites with an old flame, and then tussles with the creepy scarecrow to the entire Gotham populace being poisoned. You see that on HBO Max, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. At number 5 is The Prestige. That was from 2006. Nolan's scintillating Victorian-era tale of rival illusionists is in itself a nifty magic trick. Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman are partners in a snazzy teleportation bit who turn on each other after the tragic death of their assistant. The bad blood just increases from there and gets exceedingly personal as each magician tries to outdo the other in an electrifying, gripping duel that tears apart both their lives. You can see that on Peacock, Hulu, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. At number 4 is The Inception. That's from 2010. The kaleidoscopic sci-fi thriller blew people's minds. From a stacked cast to groundbreaking, eye-popping visuals, Leonardo DiCaprio plays a thief who extracts secrets from sleeping people's minds, and his crew's latest job involves invading the dreams of a businessman, a mission with rotating hallways, physics-busting cityscapes, and gravity-defying brawls. And that final scene with the top, it still haunts so many years later. You can see that on Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. At number 3, they have Interstellar. That was from 2014. This trippy, mind-bending sci-fi thriller stars Matthew McConaughey as a former NASA pilot recruited for a mission to find a potential new world for mankind when Earth becomes unlivable. But more than just a cosmic adventure, it's an intriguing, emotionally affecting father-daughter tale where McConaughey's astronaut and his kid find a heartfelt connection across space and time. And you can watch that on Paramount Plus, Hulu, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. Movie number 2 is The Dark Knight from 2008. Nolan pulled off one of the best superhero movies ever, thanks in large part to Heath Ledger's intimidable performance as the chaotic, unpredictable Joker. Now, while Ledger completely hijacks the flick, Bale's Dark Knight still shines, wrestling with not only his colorful psycho, but also his own personal choices and role as Gotham's resident protector in a movie that brilliantly tackles the fine line between good and evil. You can see that on HBO Max, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. And finally, here we are. Movie number 1 is The Odyssey. This is the new movie now, 2026. After being a key to the victory of the Trojan War, Greek hero Odysseus, played by Matt Damon, goes to hell and back trying to get home to his wife, who's Anne Hathaway, and his son, Tom Holland, in Nolan's brutal yet introspective adaptation of Homer's epic poem. The filmmaker's masterpiece examines war and storytelling and its star-studded narrative, but also has huge action sequences and a flair for the fantastical, with Odysseus dealing with sea creatures, witches, a cyclops, and his own guilt monstrously manifested in this memorable journey. And where can you watch that? Well, it's in theaters right now.
You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 1:43. The World Cup halftime runneth over with stars. For the first time in FIFA World Cup history, football took a cue from football and sandwiched a star-studded show between the two halves of play. Madonna, Shakira, Justin Bieber, and BTS represented the cultural diversity of the World Cup, which began June 11th and culminated with its 104th match at the July 19th final between defending champion Argentina and Spain. The 11-minute halftime show at New York, New Jersey Stadium, aka MetLife Stadium, was an exercise in collaboration. A rainbow-colored banner covered the field, and echoes of Madonna's music filled the screen before unveiling the Queen of Pop in her now signature pink as she rode in a car packed with vivacious dancers hanging off the sides in a pre-taped intro. Then sunlight hit the screen as she strode onto the field, singing the refrain of "Music makes the people come together," flanked by soccer icons Ronaldinho Gaucho and Ronaldo Nazario. Her brief appearance signaled exactly what many suspected would be the major flaw in this conglomeration of worldwide music stars. Too many people, too little time. The quick-paced spectacle jumped to the Muppets handling the groove of the White Stripes. Seven Nation Army, as Gustavo Dudamel conducted a group of felt-covered favorites, surrounded by an orchestra that parted to unveil BTS dropping their sprightly dynamite. The group had a few seconds to break out their gripping choreography, along with dozens of other dancers as they slid across the field floor. But again, there's only so much even a group of seasoned pros like these guys can produce in their 2 minutes of performance time. As if this gathering needed more people, Jason Sudeikis and Brendan Hunt strolled the sidelines as their Ted Lasso characters, Lasso and Coach Beard respectively, as a segue to introduce Bieber. In a longer show with fewer artists, their appearance would have been a cute tie-in to this celebration of soccer. But were they really necessary? Touting his acoustic guitar and donning a headset, Bieber changed the tempo of the production with live singing. Go figure. For his comparatively sedate Everything Hallelujah with tweaked lyrics to complement the World Cup. While the non-pre-recorded vocals were appreciated, his ballad felt oddly shoehorned into what was otherwise a vigorous, energetic halftime. Of course, no World Cup performance would be complete without the captivating presence of Shakira. In a skin-bearing outfit of yellow and pink halter and skirt, the Colombian superstar grinned and danced with Burna Boy with a hip-gyrating, rhythm-heavy performance of Naturally Die Die, the official song of the World Cup that has been breaking chart records ever since its release in May. Along with the marquee headliners, a barely noticeable Chris Martin of Coldplay, who aided Global Citizen in producing the show, bounced along with the New York City-based PS22 chorus, who sang of unity, We Dance, as the camera zoomed out to show the love insignia on the on-field banner. To produce the event, which required a 7-minute setup, FIFA extended the halftime to nearly 30 minutes from the usual 15, a move that angered some soccer purists. It was altered only with the referee's permission as per the rules of the International Football Association Board. And here's a picture of Madonna performing with Ronaldinho and Ronaldo during the halftime. She's, of course, much shorter than they are. And another picture of Shakira in her midriff-bearing outfit, bringing her characteristic energy to the FIFA World Cup halftime show with Die Die, surrounded by ladies moving so quickly that their head is flying in the air.
And now I'm going to take you back to our front page for my next article. It's We Need Better Heroes, and Spain answers that call. At this level, any coach can find great players. Finding players who are also good people and willing to put the team ahead of themselves, well, that's the challenge. In this day and age, when so many people are out only for themselves, not caring who they trample to get what they want, Spain coach Luis de la Fuente and his team, they're a breath of fresh air. They're the World Cup champs because they were the best team in the tournament. They have so much joy in the title because they didn't sacrifice their values to get it. I believe real success lies in looking for the right travel companions, people with principles, de la Fuente said after Spain beat Argentina 1-0 for its second ever World Cup title. It's unbelievable that I'm talking about this as something exceptional. I don't think I'm an alien, he said from the earth, De La Fuente said, drawing laughter. Sports heroes are too often anything but. It's so refreshing how many times we've had to just root for our teams and athletes while holding our noses, either because they have not thought twice about cutting corners on the way to success, or because there is documented evidence that they're not good people. At this World Cup, Cape Verde's wonderful story was tainted by the revelation that Captain Ryan Mendes is under investigations after accusations of sexual assault in New Zealand. Several other players are either facing similar allegations or have in the past. Now the outside world can never really know a team. We don't see them day in and day out and spend time with them when their guards are down. But there is no evidence that they are not who De La Fuente says they are. And their World Cup title, it gives them credence to what he says. Talented, skilled, determined, and unselfish. You take Lamine Yamal. This 19-year-old is an otherworldly talent. He's the youngest to score a goal at a European championship and already a 3-time La Liga champion with Barcelona. Yet he finished the World Cup with only one goal. If Yamel was selfish, you could bet he would have been hijacking the runs and taking shots rather than just passing to open teammates. Or Rodri. If Spain's captain didn't think La Roja's collective goal was more important than individual accomplishments, he would have spent the entire tournament hogging the spotlight to disabuse the world of the notion that he's washed. But neither of those things happened. In the past, people were surprised about footballers being very talented and skilled, and also good people, De La Fuente said. This shows that it is possible. Good people, generous people with values that have managed to create a great team. We've shown that we're a united team, the most united team, a good team in every sense of the word. Argentina has been a chippy team throughout the tournament, and the players bordered on reckless as they got desperate. Enzo Fernandez picked up his second yellow card in stoppage time of regulation when his tackle sent Pau Cubarsí somersaulting before hitting the ground with a thud. Argentina's Leandro Paredes was given a straight red for going for Eric Garcia's throat at the end of the game. Yet as Argentina went to collect its medals, Spain's players all applauded. Nico Williams leaned over to make sure he high-fived and slapped hands with every member. Told Argentina coach Lionel Scolari had broken down in tears during his news conference, De La Fuente looked pained. I would like to take the opportunity to thank him publicly for everything he's taught me. All the football conversations we had, he explained how difficult it would be to be in this position at the World Cup. His experience was very valuable to us, he said. I'm deeply sorry for what he's going through. Championing the common good and setting an example for all. It really shouldn't be that hard to be a good human being. Mind your manners, be nice to others, apologize when you've done wrong, and try to leave everywhere you've been better than how you found it. Yet, too often now, it seems that that's simply too big of an ask. People are out only for themselves, and the hell with everyone else. Now that makes Spain and De La Fuente easy champions to celebrate. Favor the common good before the individual good. That's what we are trying to do, he said. We're trying to surround ourselves with people who have that feeling that they want to just be part of that group. And maybe, just maybe, this World Cup run will entice more people to try to win like Spain, to be just kinder, gentler, and more considerate of your fellow humans on the soccer field or off.
I want to say there's a picture that goes with this, all the Spanish teams jumping in the air, and they cropped Donald Trump out the edge of it.
They did.
Well, anyway, on the Lifeline column, making waves with Melissa Gilbert. Melissa Gilbert, who appeared on several episodes of the Hallmark Channel series When Calls the Heart, revealed she won't be returning to the show's new season in a recent Instagram post. Gilbert played forensic investigator Georgia McGill on the Aaron Krakow-led romantic drama. She said her exit stems from budget issues on the Hallmark show, before wishing the cast and crew a wonderful and successful season 14, which is set to air in 2027. Gilbert's departure from the series also comes months after her husband, actor Timothy Busfield, was indicted on child sex abuse charges. It's your birthday. Who's celebrating today? Singer Yusuf Islam of Cat Stevens turns 78. Cartoonist Gary Trudeau is also 78. Comedian actor John Lovitz is 69. Actor Alicia Reiner is 56. Model actor Ali Landry is 53. Comedian Steve Byrne is 52. Actor David Dastmalchian is 51. Actor Justin Bartha is 48. Actor Josh Hartnett, 48. Musician Damian Marley, also 48. Actor Vanessa Lengies is 41. Actor Betty Gilpin is 40. Actor Rory Culkin is 37. And actor Juno Temple is 37. And here are the horoscopes. Aries, March 21st to April 19th. Emotional intensity pushes you to grow beyond your complexes today. Can you gain from it? Absolutely. Taurus, April 20th to May 20th. Relationships may push you toward personal expansion today. It's safe to grow beyond your familiar territory. Gemini, May 21st to June 21st. A work situation may come to a head. What are you going to do? Evolve through the tension. Cancer, June 22nd to July 22nd. Creative inspiration may trigger self-worth issues today. Are you confident enough to clear the hurdle in front of you? Leo, July 23rd to August 22nd. Personal growth will challenge your emotional comfort zones today. Choose growth over familiarity. Virgo, August 23rd to September 22nd. You may receive information that changes how you view your path forward. Can you stay curious rather than certain? Libra, September 23rd to October 23rd. Life is ready to open up, but first you'll need to address complicated emotions. Scorpio, October 24th and November 21st. Are emotional struggles clashing with your bigger ambitions? Examine what gets you caught up. Sagittarius, November 22nd to December 21st. A relationship surprise may challenge a fixed perspective. What ingrained ideas are you ready to shake loose? Capricorn, social dynamics can reveal opportunities for deeper growth today. Are you able to adapt? Let complex feelings evolve. Aquarius, are your professional responsibilities getting in the way of your personal relationships? Be flexible while the Scorpio moon activates Jupiter. In Pisces, the ground beneath your feet is shaking. Could a shift in mindset create a meaningful change at a foundational level? Well, you've been listening to a reading of USA Today for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. We read USA Today weekday at noons. For more information, call 821-5555. Your readers today have been
Jody
and Alan Blackburn.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,